of everything the British built in India, this is the one they were proudest of. 40,000 miles of railway, one of the largest rail networks on Earth. To this day, you will hear it offered as the closing argument for the whole empire. But they gave us the railways. So let us do what this channel does. Let us follow the rails, all the way back to where the money came from. Because the railways were real, the trains ran, the bridges still stand. But they were not a gift. They were a loan India was never given the chance to refuse, and one of the most elegant money-making machines the empire ever devised. The story begins in 1853, with a short line running out of Bombay. A modest thing, a few miles of track. But everyone understood it was the seed of something vast. The men who ran India had grand plans for the railway, and they were honest in their own circles about why. A railway could move troops to a rebellion faster than any road. It could carry raw cotton from the interior to the ports, and finished goods from the ports back inland. It could knit a sprawling, conquered territory into a single, governable, profitable whole. These were the priorities. Move the army, move the exports. And somewhere after that, move the people of India if it happened to be convenient. So the question was never whether to build. The question was who would pay and who would profit. And the answer the empire reached is the heart of this episode. Here is how it worked. The Crown wanted railways but did not want to risk the British Treasury building them, so it turned to private British companies and made them an offer almost too good to be true. If you, a British railway company, come and build a line in India, the government will guarantee your investors a fixed annual return on their capital, around 5% every year, paid like clockwork, whether the railway makes a profit or not. Read that again, slowly, because it is the whole trick. A guaranteed return, regardless of profit. And the guarantee was not underwritten by Britain. It was underwritten by India, paid out of Indian revenues, the taxes raised from Indian land and Indian people. For a man with money in London, this was close to a perfect investment. You could put your savings into a faraway railway you would never see and collect a safe, government-backed dividend, with the risk carried entirely by a population on the other side of the planet. Think about what this arrangement actually did. If a line was profitable, the investors took their dividend and kept their gains. If a line lost money, and many did for years, the shortfall was simply made up out of the Indian treasury, so that the investors still got their 5%. The companies had little reason to keep costs down because the downside wasn't theirs. Equipment was bought in Britain, engineers were British, even the rails and the rolling stock came largely from British factories. Historians have a phrase for a structure like this: private profit, public risk. The profit was private and British. The risk was public and Indian. And the capital itself, the money borrowed to lay all that track, added to India's debt. So India paid 3 times over. It paid the construction costs through borrowed money it owed. It paid the guaranteed dividends to London investors out of its revenue. And it paid the interest on the debt for decades after. The trains ran. But every mile of that triumph sat on top of an Indian liability. Now, look at the map the railways actually drew. If you build a transport network to serve the people of a country, you connect towns to each other, markets to markets, region to region in a web. But that is not quite the network India got. Look closely and you see the lines reaching, again and again, from the cotton fields and the grain districts of the interior straight out to the great ports, Bombay, Calcutta, Madras. From the soil of India to a ship bound for Britain. It was a network shaped, first and foremost, to extract, to pull raw materials out to the coast for export, and to push British manufactured goods back in. The same logic we will see tearing through India's own industries in a later episode. Finished cloth in, raw cotton out, was being laid down here in iron. This is not to say Indians never benefited. They did. People traveled, goods moved, and in time the network became part of India's own life, and after independence, part of its backbone. But that was, in the original design, a side effect. The railway was an instrument of the empire's accounts before it was a service to the empire's subjects. So when someone closes the argument with, "But they gave us the railways," here is the receipt we can finally lay on the table. India did not receive the railways as a gift. India financed them through debt raised in its name, dividends paid from its revenue, and costs it could not refuse. By some accounts, Indians paid over the long life of the system far more than the railways would have cost had they simply been built directly. Economists still argue the precise figures, and we will not pretend to one, but the structure is not in serious doubt. India bought its own railways at a premium on terms set in London for purposes chosen in London. A gift is something given freely. This was something sold on credit with a guaranteed profit for the seller written into the contract. There is a word for that, and it is not generosity. The railways are the empire's favorite exhibit, and now we have read the price tag stitched to the back of it. The pattern from our first two episodes holds. India produces the wealth, India carries the risk, London collects the return. But there is a darker line in this ledger, and we can put it off no longer. Those same railways, built to carry grain swiftly to the ports, what happened when the grain was needed at home? When the crops failed, and millions of people in the countryside had nothing to eat, and the trains kept rolling toward the coast anyway? Next time, the hardest entry in the whole account, the famines the empire exported. Tareekh ka Hisaab, history audited. Hisaab abhi baki hai. The account isn't settled yet.